Hi BookTube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing very well. Today I've got a book haul for you. It's been, what, 2-3 weeks I think since last time I did a book haul. And this is quite a big one. And essentially it seems almost like I'm stockpiling books. One of the things I like about making book haul videos, I love watching book haul videos as well. I was just watching the other day a book haul that Ollie from Ollie made, and he was talking about how people say that what they love about book haul videos is someone, they've got all these books that they haven't read, and it's just sharing that joy of discovery, I suppose, and it's all new and fresh, and there's lots of excitement. And that's certainly one side of it that I really love. Another side of it that I find at least useful personally is with this channel, I have a sort of record of what I've been buying. I can look back at videos and I can also then see roughly how much I've been buying over the course of a year. And if you've been watching my videos at least somewhat regularly, you probably notice these book hauls come up periodically through the year, and it's kind of getting to a point now where it's a bit alarming. And so I haven't set out any rules for myself or anything like that, but I'm thinking of going on some kind of book buying diet, I suppose, as some people would put it. Whether that's something like the 100 book challenge or something like that, I don't know. So I'll try and read 100 books before I buy another book. Maybe I'll do something like that. I haven't set any rules for myself yet. I was talking about it with my wife earlier today, and she was saying I should probably try and set some rules for myself fairly soon before I buy any more books. I've had that in the back of my head for a while, and so what's kind of happened, kind of defeating the object, is that I've kind of stockpiled loads of books. And so I've got about 13 books. Some of them came up by chance, some of them I just got because I wanted to have them around just in case. I was putting a massive, if I was to put some kind of ban on myself in the near future. So we've got about 13 books. The first one is a book that I left behind when I was in a bookshop buying books that probably would have turned up in the last book haul video. It was a secondhand bookshop, that gets a fair bit of traffic, but I was kind of hoping that this book was obscure enough and nerdy enough that other people probably wouldn't be interested in it. And so even though about 3 weeks had gone by since I'd last been in the bookshop, I thought there'd at least be a chance that it would still be there, and luckily it was. And in the time in between, I've really been regretting not picking it up. So I was very glad it was still there, and it was a lovely Penguin classic of Sydney's The Defence of Poesy and Selected Renaissance Literary Criticism. So very, very nerdy book with lots of literary, lots of essays about literature from the 16th, 17th century, really, and it's got a massive introduction as well. So something I'll dive into at some point. And then when I went into that bookshop, I also picked up a secondhand copy of The Prague Cemetery by Umberto Eco. I really like Umberto Eco. There are a couple of his books that I haven't read yet that I've got on the shelves, but I thought I'd just get another one, and this was one that really really intrigues me, so we'll see how that goes. Then the next couple of books, I've been feeling, every now and then an author comes up and maybe you see someone on BookTube talking about them, and you might not have really considered them that much before. You've maybe heard of them, maybe read a little bit by them in the past, but I had never really thought there was something you wanted to dive into. And this is the case for me with John Ashbery, a great 20th century and 21st century as well poet from America. And these stirrings were initially happening earlier this year when I read a book called The Lives of the Poets by Michael Schmidt, and just hearing what he had to say about Ashbery really intrigued me. But also, there's a great channel called Leafy Concern, and in these videos, the creator is very, Ashbery often comes up on the channel, and he has so much to say about Ashbery that's um, just really, really just wonderful. And it's where the love for an author kind of becomes infectious. And I wanted to spend some time with Ashbery and see what I thought. So I read some Ashbery that I had in my Norton anthology, but I wanted more. So I picked up his selected poems. And so this is, I think this is the 1985 selected poems, so his sort of earlier and sort of mid-career stuff. So I'm really, really intrigued about him. I have enjoyed his translations in the past. I've got a few books of translated French poetry, and a lot of the translations in there are by John Ashbery, and quite often he's one of my favourite translators. With that in the back of my head, I also picked up this. It's John Ashbery's translation of Rimbaud's Illuminations. So a poet I've enjoyed in the past, and a translator I've enjoyed in the past. So I've a good chance of really enjoying this volume, and a really lovely looking volume as well. And then next up, a book I picked up about 2 weeks ago now, nearly 2 weeks ago. We went to this massive garden centre that also had a fairly decent bookshop, and I picked up this. It's a lovely little Everyman's Pocket classic of stories of books and libraries, which is just a really intriguing little book, and it's got lots of really interesting stuff in it. So I had a look down the table of contents and just couldn't pass it up. So it opens with the short story Exchange by Ray Bradbury, which I read on the day I got it, and I must have read it or heard it before because it was all very familiar, but a really great short story by Ray Bradbury. It's got bits and bobs from there's Umberto Eco, of course, Italo Calvino, there's some Elizabeth Taylor in here, Evelyn Waugh, Julia Cortázar, there's some Ali Smith. I'm not really very familiar with Ali Smith. There's some Isaac Babel, who I haven't got on with in the past, but maybe this will be a kind of redemption for him. It's got The Library of Babel by Jorge Luis Borges. It's got some Samuel Pepys, Alan Bennett, Maxim Gorky, Charles Lamb, Colette, Saki. Who else is familiar? Jasper Ford, Walter Benjamin, and Goethe. So yeah, just lots of great writers writing about books and libraries. Sometimes there's short stories where a library or a certain book is, sort of plays a prominent role. And the Walter Benjamin piece, I think, is an essay about packing up and moving his library. So sort of maybe ruminations on a personal book collection, things like that. So really love that, and a really lovely looking volume. Does it have any Virginia Woolf in it? I'm just going to have a quick look. See if there's any Virginia Woolf. I don't think there was. Oh no. Well, it's not the end of the world, but just having a quick look. No, I don't think there is. Oh well. Moving on then. So I'll pick this next one up. Again, this is similar to the thing with John Ashbery. It's where someone's love for an author has become infectious, and I want to have a go, see what they're like for myself. It was an author I was kind of intrigued by. It's an author who is very big in the US, is one of these authors that you have to read in school in the US. And so lots of the authors I've read and lots of the TV shows that I've watched reference this author and their work. And I've seen people on BookTube talking about him. And in particular, it's someone that Pat from Book Chat with Pat really likes, and that's J.D. Salinger. And I've never read anything by J.D. Salinger. And so I picked up The Catcher in the Rye, and I'll see what I think. I read the just the first page when I picked it up, and in a good way, in a very good way, it reminded me of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I think Catcher in the Rye was probably a big influence on that book, but just that not quite deadpan, but I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the voice, it was energetic, kind of critical, but also, I don't know, trying to work things out. So yeah, we'll see what I think once I read the whole thing, but very intrigued. It might be a good one for Christmas time, maybe. And then a couple of works in translation that I've been intrigued by. The first one, I'm just mainly intrigued generally by the author, a winner of the Nobel Prize. And there's a new book by her coming out later this year, at least in English. And there are plenty of more famous books by her that I could have picked. But I picked this one. It's Flight by Olga Tokarczuk. Apologies if I'm not saying the name correctly. It's translated by Jennifer Croft. And I'll be honest, so it says it's a novel about travel in the 21st century and human autonomy. And it sort of seems to go back into the past and is making parallels with historical these historical sort of travels, I suppose. So there's a Dutch anatomist, Philip Verheyen, who dissected and drew pictures of his own amputated leg. There's, from the 18th century, there's the story of a North African born slave turned Austrian courtier who was then stuffed and put on display after his death. And this next bit that really made me intrigued and made me want to pick it up. So for the 19th century, she follows Chopin he follows Chopin's heart as it makes the covert journey from Paris to Warsaw. So I'm guessing that's after he's died. I'm really intrigued by Chopin. He's a composer I really enjoy. So that was the main reason I picked up the book. And then the other work in translation, another very celebrated book, is Solenoid by Mircea Cartanescu. This is translated by, where does it say it? By Sean Cotter. And again, a very, I've sort of seen it come up here and there, and I've been kind of intrigued by it. And I think I will like it. It seems like people who talk about certain authors that I like also like this. So I think I'll get on with it. And then moving on, then there's only 5 books left. A couple of authors, some kind of old school authors that I wanted to try, who I've never read anything by them, and particularly this first one I've been wanting to read for quite some time, and so I found this in a charity shop. It's The Heart of the Matter by Graham Greene. Never read anything by Graham Greene. What does this say? It's a story of personal and spiritual confusion. And then it just says how it's made into a film. But I've been really intrigued by Graham Greene, and I'm not sure if this is the best place to start, but I mean, it seems like he's a fairly accessible writer anyway, so I don't think it really matters where you start with him. And the other sort of classic 20th century author that I've never read anything by, kind of intrigued by, is Christopher Isherwood. And so this is A Single Man by Isherwood. And yeah, I'd not really heard of him until I sort of years ago watched a documentary about W.H. Auden, and even then it wasn't really until people on BookTube started talking about him that I started really becoming intrigued and wanted to see what he was like. So yeah, we'll see. And then the last three, again, the first two were of this three were in a charity shop, and they're books 2 and 3 of a series. And it was really infuriating that they didn't have the first book in the charity shop. And I was thinking, well, someone must have got rid of the whole series. And so I was hoping against hope that somehow, because there are loads of charity shops on the same street where I found it. And so I was hoping against hope that they'd have the first book in one of the other charity shops, but they didn't. And then everywhere I've been looking for the first book. But as well as that, the book 2 and book 3, I found them both in hardback, and so I didn't really want to get a paperback of book 1 either. And so I was sort of limited to searching out secondhand bookshops because they wouldn't have had a hardback in a new bookshop. And it's the Woolfall books by Hilary Mantel. So in the charity shop I found Bring Up the Bodies, book 2, and then and then The Mirror and the Light as well. And so yeah, they were really good finds. I was glad I found them in these really lovely looking hardbacks. And so, but again, it was very infuriating that they only had books 2 and 3, and so I was everywhere I went, I was looking for Woolfall in a hardback, and eventually, I was thinking about eventually having to put some kind of ban on my book buying, and so it would have been infuriating to enter some kind of book buying ban, some kind of book buying diet, and not have Woolfall. So I caved and just bought a hardback secondhand online. So got Woolfall as well. And it turned up today, and once it had turned up and I popped it on the shelf, sort of turned and said to my wife, okay, there we go. I won't be getting any more books for a while. And so maybe I'll make another video about maybe what restrictions I'll put on myself, what this book buying diet, what this challenge I set out on will look like. Maybe go through some of the reasons I want to do it, some of the books I have lying around that I'd love to get to, but I'm constantly being distracted, that kind of stuff. And so this, fingers crossed, will be my last book haul for a while. I know I say that again and again, but yeah, hopefully I'll put a plan together, I'll let you know what the plan is, and then hopefully with that kind of accountability in place, I'll stick to it. So I'll do a review. I'll see if I can do a stack of all the books. So we've got the Woolfall books. So we've got The Mirror and the Light. Oh, this is going to be really heavy. We've got Bring Up the Bodies. We've got Woolfall. My poor fingers. We've got Solenoid. Oh no, we've got these guys. We forgot A Single Man by Isherwood. We've got The Heart of the Matter by Graham Greene. That's also the title of my favourite Libertines song. There's Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. Again, apologies, Olga. We've got The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This hurts. We've got a stories of books and libraries from Everyman there. We've got Illuminations by Rimbaud, translated by John Ashbery. We've got John Ashbery's selected poems. This is getting crazy. We've got Umberto Eco, The Prague Cemetery. And then finally, before this all falls and kills me, we've got a, whatever it is, Sydney's The Defence of Poesy and Selected Renaissance Literary Criticism. And there we go. That is the whole book haul. Before I go, I just remembered something. I just remembered that the guy in the front, at least to me, I'm not sure if you can see him. Let's hope this is in focus. I don't know. To me, he really looks like Kenneth Branagh. Maybe Google the title of this book after you're done. You could go and Google Sydney's The Defence of Poesy and Selected Renaissance Literary Criticism, Penguin Classic. Have a look at the cover, zoom in on this guy playing his lyre, or whatever it is on the front there. To me, he looks a lot like Kenneth Branagh. Okay, there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you're doing very well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.